Let's come back to the breaking news now. We have more in the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. As you look at the scenes of the Security Cabinet as they have met earlier this morning, the full Israeli government cabinet is going to convene any minute now to discuss and approve, we will see, the hostage ceasefire deal. Now, that's a day earlier than originally planned, but the Security Cabinet that you're looking at right here just gave the deal the green light. So let's bring in our senior international correspondent, Chris Brown, who's part of our CBC News team in the Middle East. And he's right there near the Prime Minister's office where this is all being discussed and where the vote is happening. So, Chris, breaking news, the Security Cabinet has approved us. Tell us what you've learned this morning.
Well, it's important, Heather, because nothing is really finalized until it actually has been finalized. And we've had so many hiccups, so many snags, as mediators have called it, especially in the last 24 hours as this deal has tried to get over the finish line, that it's important. So the security, the security part of the Israeli cabinet has just finished. We understand that they did approve it, and now it is going to the full cabinet. That's also important because earlier today, it looked like that was going to happen on Saturday, that might kick this ceasefire, or at least parts of it, into maybe Monday instead of Sunday. But now it appears that things are kind of back on that original timetable. I'll just read you a little bit about the release that came a short while ago from the Prime Minister's office here. Following an evaluation of all diplomatic, security, and humanitarian aspects, and while understanding that the proposed deal supports the achievement of the objectives of the war, the Security Cabinet has recommended that the government approve the proposed framework. That doesn't mean that everyone in that room agreed. We understand there was dissent from at least two of Israel's far-right ministers, but we also understand that other parts of the government, opposition members of the government, are also going to back this. So this does seem like we are one step away, at least on the Israeli side, from full and final approval, Heather.
And Chris, before we look a little bit down the line at what's coming next and what we should wait for on Sunday, you mentioned the Prime Minister's statement. There is a full statement as well from the President's in a little bit more detail than that from Benjamin Netanyahu. Isaac Herzog saying he welcomes as well the Security Cabinet decision to approve the hostage deal, which will bring our hostages home. And then he says, I expect the government to follow suit in swiftly affirming this decision, calling this a vital step toward fulfilling the highest covenant between the state and his citizens. But he does talk, Chris, about the great challenges and painful, agonizing moments that we will need to overcome and face together as he looks down the road. So the next step, once this is all approved, as they seem to indicate they expect it will be later today, Sunday, is it still a possibility that this will indeed take effect, that we will see hostages start to return and the fighting will pause?
Israeli media is reporting that the fighting in Gaza will pause shortly after 12 o'clock noon, and then possibly right around 4 o'clock is when we would see the first of the Israeli hostages released. Again, we don't have final confirmation of that, but that's what we're hearing. Sometime after that, we also expect that Palestinian detainees, people who have been in Israeli prisons, that they'll be released. But we do not know exactly who, and again, we don't know exactly when. We do know that there are 33 Israeli names on a list that have been given here, and some of those people, at least 3, will be among the first people released. So a time of great anxiety still. Earlier today, all day today rather, in Tel Aviv, there have been gatherings at what's become known as Hostage Square, where people, supporters of those in captivity, have been coming together. They've been trying to give each other support, including people such as Michael Iluz. His son was killed in the Supernova Music Festival event on October the 7th. He spoke to the crowd. Let's have a listen.
This deal comes too late for my son Guy, whose life will not be saved, but it can be brought back home to burial here. Our work is not done. We will not rest until every hostage is home. The living and the dead, they all need to return to us, to their family.
We don't know what's going to happen, though, after this first list of 33 gets released, nor should we say, do we know if everyone on this list, Heather, is actually alive. We believe there are somewhere around 60 hostages that may still be alive in Gaza, but some of them obviously are not included on that list to be released in the first phase. So this deal calls for negotiations after 16 days and then a second phase that's going to kick in after about 6 weeks when more detainees and more hostages will come. But the big question for that is, are we even going to get to that second phase? That's one of the big concerns of families. It's one of the big concerns of everyone because no one, very few anyway, do want the fighting to resume after this phase one. I say very few because actually there are many far-right people with the settlers movement that want to see the Israeli military keep going in Gaza, keep trying to defeat Hamas, but today the cabinet has said otherwise.
So, Chris, thank you very much. Again, the Security Cabinet saying yes, off to the broader government for approval, and Chris Brown right there in Jerusalem to bring us breaking coverage as we get further information. Thank you, Chris, and this is CBC Morning Live.